It took me 10 years in corporate to finally feel like I had my toge I can't say that. It took me 10 years in corporate to finally feel like I had my money together. So that was 10 years of prep, 10 years of planning, 10 years of struggle trying to get there. And once I got there, I was like, "And now what?" And you may be feeling that same way. But at some point, you have to stop planning and you have to stop preparing and you have to start actually building something and making something of that achievement. This video is for you if you have a good job and you know you need to be doing something to grow your money, you just don't know what that is. And you're ready to move away from being just an earner and a spender. By the end of this video, you will know what to do after you get your money together. I remember a few years after graduating from college where I was making decent money from the outside looking in, but I still just felt like it wasn't enough. And so I was charted down the path to I'm gonna take over corporate. I'm gonna double my income, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you've all been there. And then once I reached the pinnacle of like, oh, I'm making in my mind, making enough money, that's when the reality about how unstable these corporate careers actually are, that's when that reality hit me. So I started studying all these rich people, right? How are they having more than enough? How are they finding an abundance of money and continuing to grow their money? One key trait existed among all of them. Everyone had a growth vehicle for their money. That's when I realized that it wasn't enough just to make a high six-figure salary. You know, you're still paying high taxes. Everybody has their hand in your pocket. And so it just seems like I need something beyond the salary and I need some stability, right? Then I started looking for how do I get a growth engine going? And I shared in my last video how it wasn't enough to just come up with an idea, whether you want to start a business or invest in stocks or invest in real estate, first you have to create your capacity to do so. And capacity means your time, your energy, and your money. So if you make a decent amount of money and you still feel fragile, like any false move, this whole house of cards can come falling down, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think what's so confusing is that we were sold this dream that once you go to college and you get the good job, like that's it. That's all you need to do. But that couldn't be further from the truth in our reality. I think that was the reality back for our parents back in the boomer ages. But now, especially if you're over 35 or 40, you realize that what was good money 10 years ago is not necessarily good money today. And it's like the job landscape has totally changed. Getting your money together is simply not enough anymore. It's like you have to do that plus have something else working for you on your behalf. But before you get to that reality, most people think they need to save more or they need to earn more money or they need to get into a more stable career. Then you realize that without a growth engine, all of those end up in the same place. And then at some point, like I realized you have found success in one area of your life. You've found success in your career and you found success in your earning potential, but you're still missing that key, the true form of success, which is earning independently, having freedom of time, freedom of space. And I think what's been missing, especially in the African American community, is that we've been told to, as an individual, get yourself to a certain level and that is considered success. But what I'm seeing now is that it seems that as a result of that mindset that the African American community, we just keep resetting. Every generation resets because no one is leaving anything behind. And that's because we become experts at getting good jobs and making good salaries, which is a temporary thing, right? That's only good enough for your lifespan. And so if we want to do more than have to reset every generation and every person leave college literally at zero, no money for home down payment, no money, like no zero cushion, we have to change our mindset and we have to start looking at things a little differently. We have to start looking at the way we view success and what we choose to do with our money differently. And so that means we have to start growing beyond what our efforts can do. So once you have reached a status where you have carved out 1 hour a day that you can work on something. You've got some money sitting under the mattress, something that you can do, play around with. I think you owe it to yourself, to your family, to everyone coming behind you to try to build something. And so it's like you did all this work to get in this spot, like don't just sit in it. So if I circle back to my story about once I had reached a high paying job and had gotten promoted and moved up into leadership in my career, and then I was a manager and I had to lay people off, that was my signal that this high salary could all go away. Now is the time. I have the capacity, I have the money, I've been studying, I've been ready, like I've been looking at different investment opportunities. I have to pull the trigger because I knew at that point that I didn't wanna be laid off and have nothing, covering me, and I also knew that I couldn't depend on my salary forever, like, it can always go away, and then it's like you want the freedom of, if this company is going in a direction I don't wanna go, or right now, a lot of people are dealing with, I was working from home and now I gotta go into the office, or my company up and moved their headquarters and now they want us all to move. If you just want some options or even something just to be a cushion for when you don't wanna march to the beat of somebody else's drum all the time, that is the best time and the loudest signal that you are ready to do something with that capacity that you've earned. So I had been looking into stock investing for several years, and I had my real estate license right out of college. I come from a family of real estate brokers. So real estate has always kind of been in my blood. And I knew at some point I wanted to get into rental real estate. And one of my really good friends, she was building her portfolio fast. Like she was buying all sorts of multifamily. And essentially, I had the blueprint right in front of me. So I knew that once I got my money together and I had the opportunity, real estate was kind of inevitable. So I chose to go down that path versus going down a day trader path or something like that, which would have been a much more effort. I was still working in corporate. So I didn't really want to get myself into a full-time job per se. And I know people do that with jobs, but I didn't know enough about it to know how much time it would take away from me. And so I knew I had the blueprint for how to get into rental real estate. And so I went down that path. And then the other thing is like I had the blueprint and I had competitive advantage. And that's the other thing I want to share with people because a lot of people are spending time trying to figure out how to find their thing, how to find a side hustle, try how to do this, how to grow their money. What is their growth engine going to be? And they're so busy looking into their passions and what do they like to do and what makes them feel good that they don't even realize that they also need to consider where do they have competitive advantage. So for me, my competitive advantage is that the city that I'm from has multifamily units in abundance and I had on the ground support who could help me build that business. So it's almost like a no brainer. All the signs were pointing to if you want to make this business work, you can. And it doubled as my growth engine because once you buy real estate, every year the property appreciates, every year you get tax advantages, every month you get a cash flow. So for me, it just made total sense. And so for most people, the barrier to entry getting into real estate is that they don't have the money, right? They don't have the capital to buy properties or to make improvements or to do all that. But if you've been working your good job and you've been squirreling money away, the last thing you wanted to do is just be sitting in your bank account because then you're actually losing money. I mean, think about what it used to cost to live pre-pandemic and what it costs to live now. So even if you've been doing all the right things with your money for years, it simply doesn't go as far as it used to go. Now you go to the grocery store, one meal is can be as much as $100. And it's almost like you might as well order DoorDash or go out to eat because the days of spending $30 on a meal are gone. Once I had committed to real estate, it was easy to just rinse and repeat and do that and buy more properties every single year because I not only had I been able to look at somebody else's blueprint, but now I had actual experience in the space. And I no longer had that fear of like, I don't know what I'm doing. What if I'm going to make a mistake? Am I gonna lose money in this? I was able to remove the main roadblock that a lot of people have, and that's actually fear of taking action on something. And I think that's why most people actually never make it to the stage of starting any sort of growth engine because either you think you're good with your career and your salary is golden and all the layoffs and everything right now is clearly telling us that that's not true, or you you just keep saving your money and you're hoping that this nest egg that you're going to have in 30 years is going to save you. But the reality is that if you're not investing that nest egg, if you haven't figured out how to get that nest egg to grow, I think it's going to be really interesting what happens with our generation. Like, you know, the millennial generation. We're the first generation to where making six figures is pretty much a standard, and we're also the first generation who are going to have to fund our own retirements. So it'll be interesting to see if this whole 401k deal actually works out. We will be the first guinea pigs. And I guess that's why I'm such a big proponent of growing something that you can tangibly control, because who knows what's going to happen by the time we get to retirement, what the taxes are going to be like, what we're actually going to be able to take out of our 401k accounts, what's actually going to be there. Who knows if Social Security is going to be around? It's just a lot of variables that we don't know. And I think while we still have our youth, we still have our earner potential, we have a little bit of a capacity, and we have the internet and AI at our disposal. I think we should be using this time to build our own backup plans and to build our own growth engines just in case those other things don't work out. And it's almost like, what else do you have to do? It's like we're the youngest we will ever be. And I'm looking forward to looking back on my younger years and not only looking at all the things that I accomplished, but looking at the things that I was able to build for myself. And I think us having so much information at our fingertips is almost crippled us. I mean, you can study a subject for years and never actually take action on it. And so you also have to protect yourself from that as well. I think if you have a great idea, you have something that you want to get experience in, it's a growth engine, it can help you build wealth, it feeds a passion that you have. You don't need more information. You need to move. You need to take the first step and start getting something working on your behalf. And when I think about like doing something with with the capacity that we have at this very moment, like kind of makes me think of that saying that the best time to build a tree was many years ago. The second best time is today. And so it's like, if you don't do something with the time and the money and the skills that you have right now today, at some point it just all starts to go downhill. The money gets spent, the time always gets filled, and the energy seems to disappear. And so if you have all three of those at your disposal right now, your future self will only thank you for using it to build. So real estate wasn't a perfect path for me, and I will share more on that later for sure. But what it was my first move, and it was my opportunity to get my feet wet with building a growth engine, and I'm so glad I did it. This is my 8th year as a real estate investor. I learn something new every single day. There's always so much going on. It's always something new to learn. It's almost like it's not perfect, it's not easy, but it has helped create, that leverage and that stability that I was looking for when I realized how fragile my corporate career, my salary was. And just like I saw, once you get into something, you'll start feeling that sense of ownership, you will get momentum, and before you know it, the stress of, "Well, I only have one source of income," or I don't have enough in my 401k," like, that stress seems to diminish. And the other reason I don't want you focused on your 401k is because it doesn't teach you anything. It's automatic, it comes out of your check, you don't even choose where to invest it. There's no skill that you can take with you. It's not a growth engine, it's a savings account for in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's what else I find valuable about real estate is that the skills that I have now. I studied engineering and I went and got an MBA, but the hands-on business experience that I was probably never gonna get in my corporate career, I'm getting it via my real estate experience. I've learned marketing, I've learned sales, I can operate any business at this point, and it all kinda works together because now that kinda feeds back into my corporate resume. I'm a candidate for many more jobs than I was if I was just using my education and my traditional background, because now I have hands-on tactical experience with something. And that's why it's kind of like the best of both worlds. I have a growth engine, but it's giving me skills that if I need to go take my career in a different direction, or I want to use that project as evidence that I'm ready for a new role, a different role in corporate, I have the ability to do that. You can't the fact that you have a 401k as your growth engine, it doesn't give you that same leverage. It doesn't give you that ability to learn anything. And I think that's something else that I want to caution high functioning corporate professionals away from is that what you went to school for, like that was just the beginning. That was just you proving to yourself of what was possible. And what I know now is that it's up to you to take yourself to the next level and to get the full realm of experience that you were meant to get out of this life. And that's why I recommend you have a growth engine, an active growth engine, I should say. It doesn't have to be real estate. It can be stock investing. It can be anything, any skill that turns into revenue. And I don't mean a job, right? Not something that you work today, you get paid today. If you don't go tomorrow, you don't get paid. The definition of a growth engine is something that can generate whether you get up and tend to it or not. And I think it's important to realize when you have all the pieces of the puzzle together, it's time to move and take action. When I look back at my old I can't even talk today. When I look back at my own situation, I think about my friend who I said I took her playbook and got into real estate. Well, she bought properties at 80,000, but because I waited, I ended up paying 180,000. And so learn from my mistake. Don't wait to build your growth engine. And if you're watching this and you're still trying to figure out how to get your money together, the link is in the description for the cash kit, which is my system of how I actually got my money together to buy my first rental. But if you already have your money together and you have an idea about a growth engine, it ain't nothing left to do but to do it. It's time for you to take action. I mean, that is where everything changed for me. I created a whole video about my trajectory and how I survived layoffs and how I survived this and how I survived that, all because I had started investing in real estate. And so real estate is actually not as glamorous as it sounds. So in my next few videos, I'm going to be breaking that down and giving you a real behind the scenes look at what it looks like to manage 90 doors of real estate while working in corporate and building this growth engine that's supposed to survive beyond me. But the important thing is that once I created the capacity to build a growth engine and then I took action on that, everything changed. It completely changed how I thought about money, about ownership, about work, about everything. So take that muscle that you built to take action and that confidence that you built along the way when you got that high paying job and you got your money together and turn it into action. Because action leads to confidence and confidence leads to cash. If you like reading as much as you like watching, you can find me over on Substack at Confidence is Cash. And if you want to see how I'm using AI to do all of the things, build my growth engine, work my corporate job, and a personal brand, you'll want to follow me over at the Prompt Life Podcast here on YouTube. That's all I got today, guys.